Hello all, welcome back to Time to Dice Character Creation, where we make your favorite fictional characters in Starfighter 2nd Edition. This week, we're building the Supreme Commander of the Droid Army himself, General Grievous. Grievous rose to power when his people, the Kaleesh, came under attack by the technologically advanced Yamri. Grievous led his people not only to drive the Yamri off their planet, but also captured several of their slave ships, which the Kaleesh then used to strike back at their enemy's homeworld. Unfortunately, this drew the attention of the Jedi Order, and rather than assess the full context, the Jedi labeled the Kaleesh the aggressors, taking both political and military action against them. This injustice sparked Grievous's hatred of the Jedi, a hatred that the Sith saw and carefully nurtured, offering Grievous cybernetic enhancements, and eventually orchestrated a tragic accident that left Grievous mortally wounded, so that they could rebuild him as a near-complete cyborg. Grievous became something unrecognizable from the warlord he once was, focused solely on one goal, the utter extermination of the Jedi Order. So beware of spoilers, and without further ado, let's get started. So what do we need to make General Grievous? Well, one thing we don't need is years of Jedi Force training to master the lightsaber. Instead, Grievous uses the supercomputers to power his brain to mimic what Jedi need a connection with all living things to accomplish, resulting in complete mastery of all 7 styles of lightsaber fighting. We do, however, need a great mind for combat. Whether you see Grievous as a brilliant tactician or a bit of a coward, there's no denying he knows exactly when it's time to lay on the pressure and when it's time to get out of dodge. And finally, what's a Supreme Commander without a loyal droid army to follow his every whim? We need to be able to boss around our allies. But anyone can backseat command. We need to make sure that by following our orders, our allies can change the tides of battle. For our ancestry, Grievous might look like a perfect fit for the android, but remember, he's actually only about 80% droid. To represent this, we're going to use the custom mixed ancestry to combine the Kasatha-based ancestry with that of the automaton. This will result in an ancestry that gives us all the core features of a Kasatha: 8 hit points, medium size, and the ability to use the alternate ability boost to dexterity and charisma. We also get a base movement speed of 25 feet, and most importantly, 4 arms. Only 2 of these hands can be active at any given time, and we can't use actions with the items that are held in our inactive hands. Remember that. We'll be using it to argue semantics later. Instead of a standard heritage, we'll pick up low light vision from the android side of things, and from here on out, we'll be able to take up ancestry feats from both Kasatha and android. Perfect for the half-organic, half-metal, all-deadly commander. For our background, Grievous was a soldier even before he took the name of Grievous, so we're going to use the trooper background. This gives us a boost to both strength and charisma, as well as training in athletics and warfare lore. For our background feat, we pick up Barricade, letting us create a little bit of cover for our allies, or, let's be honest, more realistically, ourselves, because nothing says tactical genius like flipping a table and hiding behind it while your minions do all the work. For our class, we need something that can wield martial weapons and excels at bossing people around, and among the Starfighter classes, that makes Envoy the perfect fit. This class gives us 8 plus a Constitution modifier hit points per level, and only starts out trained in Perception, which means we're a bit vulnerable to the same ambush tactics that we love to use. However, we do get expert proficiency in both reflex and will saves, because while General Grievous may not have the Force, he can do just about anything else the Jedi Masters can do. Fortitude saves are only trained, which makes sense. You're 80% robot, and somehow your designers kept the one organ that keeps you coughing non-stop. Envoys get skill training in either diplomacy, intimidation, or deception to reflect how they command others. And since General Grievous has zero hesitation about sending entire legions of droids to their doom, we're going with intimidation. After that, we'll pick up training in stealth to get the drop on unsuspecting Padawans, acrobatics for weaving through blaster fire, thievery for stealing enemy weapons, deception because it's been a long time since anyone described Grievous as honest, piloting for flying your personal escape pod, occultism for your space knowledge, and finally, survival for the skills you learned back when you were still flesh and blood. We also get training in all simple and martial weapons. So yes, you absolutely can wield 4 lightsabers at once, but this build works even better when you decide to mix things up a bit. Grievous has used staffs, pistols, and rifles, and that's just his on-screen feats. A little diversity will definitely go a long way. Lastly, we're trained in up to light armor, which means we can stay agile and keep that blitzkrieg energy when it's time to carve a path through enemy ranks. For our attributes, both strength and dex come in at +2. Grievous' cybernetic enhancements may have pushed him beyond the limits of most humanoids, but his physical feats are far from the thing that makes him seem unstoppable. Constitution sits at a +0. Don't get too ashamed of that. Not many things can stand up to lightsaber strikes anyways, so it's better to avoid getting hit in the first place. Intelligence is at a +1. Grievous is a master tactician, so this could probably be a little bit higher, but we work with what we got and we don't really need this for this build. Wisdom sits at a +0, which feels right for someone constantly running away from fights. Grievous doesn't make his will save against fear effects very often. And finally, Charisma comes in at a +4. You might not need this to boss around your mindlessly loyal droid army, but you definitely need it to strike fear into the hearts of the Jedi. That brings us to level 1, where we immediately pick our leadership style. Grievous is more than capable of taking on multiple Jedi at once, but he fights best when he has the element of surprise on his side. So we're taking the From the Shadows leadership style, granting us assurance and the stealth skill for free. Perfect for creeping up on unsuspecting Jedi with a few too many lightsabers. Level 1 also gives us our first Envoy Directive, letting us effectively command our soldiers to do our bidding. The Get 'em Directive orders your droids to focus fire on a single target, making it harder for Jedi to deflect incoming blasts. And if you activate the Lead by Example benefit, by attacking the same target yourself, you gain a circumstance bonus to damage equal to 1 plus half your charisma modifier, as your sheer menace makes it harder for enemies to defend. Not just against you, but against your allies too, as they also get a +1 to damage for attacking that target. And if we know a fight is coming, we can also lean into the Social Mastermind feature, letting us size up a number of creatures equal to our charisma modifier, getting a +1 bonus on diplomacy, intimidation, deception, and perception checks against them, as well as a +1 on our recall knowledge checks that they are the subject of. And when rolling initiative against those targets, we can trigger the Saw It Coming reaction, giving us a +1 to the roll and letting us immediately draw a weapon, step, or stride. It's starting to make sense why Grievous always insists on fighting on his own terms. From our Ancestry, we're taking the Lopping Stride feat to increase our speed by 5 feet, because when the Jedi show up, you either rush them or bolt, and being faster than them is going to help in either case. And for our class feat, we're picking the Acquired Asset feat, letting us size up an enemy with a successful attack rather than wasting time analyzing them mid-combat. And if that strike was a critical hit, not only do they become our asset, but we also get to recall knowledge about them for free. At level 2, we pick up the Dual Weapon Warrior dedication, allowing us to make 2 strikes against a single target using our 2 active hands. Both of these use the same multiple attack penalty, but be warned, if the second strike doesn't have the Agile trait, which the Plasma Sword doesn't, it'll take a -2 penalty. That's still better than the -5 that multiple attack penalty would give us, but it does mean that while cool, using 4 lightsabers is definitely not the optimal way to play this build. And you want to be playing optimally, don't you? We also pick up the Intimidating Glare skill feat, letting us demoralize enemies without saying a word. All they need to do is see Grievous whirl into view, cutting down their friends with lightsaber techniques that no Jedi has ever been taught, much less could replicate, and that's more than enough to make most people rethink their life choices. At level 3, we grab the Fleet feat, boosting our speed by another 5 feet to a total of 35 feet per action. With our robotic legs, Grievous can now run down even the fastest speedsters without breaking a sweat, or a servo. And Adaptive Talent lets us pick up an additional skill feat at the start of every day, allowing us to prepare for whatever challenges the galaxy throws our way. Then there's the Wise of the Game feature, granting us a mental edge against Jedi mind tricks, by giving us a +1 status bonus on our perception DC against attempts to feint, lie, or create a diversion aimed at us, plus a +1 status bonus on our will DC against attempts to demoralize us. And if we've marked that target as our asset, this bonus is doubled to a +2. At level 4, we can march our disposable droid army to their doom with the Get In There class feat. This grants ourselves and allies within 100 feet a 5-foot burst of speed, letting them stride into position to be mowed down by the enemy even easier. And if you activate Lead by Example, whether by stepping, striding, or any other method, each affected ally can immediately use their reaction to stride up to half their speed. Now your droids can get into position to be sliced down before their turn even starts. We also pick up Group Coercion. This skill feat lets us intimidate up to 10 creatures at once with a single roll, and as we level up our intimidation proficiency, this number will increase up to a maximum of 50 people with legendary intimidation. Grievous doesn't mess around when it comes to striking fear into the hearts of just about anyone who opposes him. At 5th level, Envoys gain Practiced Influencer. To once per day, roll a Deception, Diplomacy, or Intimidation check twice and take the better result. It'd be a shame if you had the perfect menacing threat lined up, only to break into a coughing fit right in the middle of it. We also boost both our Perception and Weapon proficiencies to Expert with Perception Expertise and Weapon Expertise. Weapon Expertise even lets us apply our weapon's critical specialization effect whenever we crit either our asset or the target of our Get 'em directive. For the Plasma Sword, that means the target takes 1d6 persistent electricity damage as our lightsaber slashes through them with ease. But you don't have to rely on just that, because surely you took my advice and are not just using 4 lightsabers because it's what your character would do, right? You are playing optimally, right? For our Ancestry feat, we grab the Double Draw feat, allowing us to draw 2 weapons in the time it would take most characters to draw 1. This explains why Grievous usually starts fights with 2 lightsabers, and then menacingly pulls out 2 more as the battle escalates. Even the Grand Commander of the droid army is limited by action economy. George Lucas definitely had this feat in mind when he was creating General Grievous. At level 6, we pick up the Twin Parry feat, letting us spend an action to use our weapons defensively, granting us a +1 bonus to our AC, or a +2 bonus if at least one of those weapons had the parry trait. Here's where things get a little bit wonky. Since the 4-armed mechanic is still in playtest, the rules are a little bit unclear here. The Gasatha 4-armed feature says that you can't take actions with weapons in your inactive hands, but you're still wielding them. So by the letter of the law, it seems perfectly viable to twin parry with a weapon that has the parry trait, then switch your active hands to attack with a weapon that doesn't, usually doing a little bit more damage. It's a cool combo, balanced by how it drains your action economy. Of course, to pull this off, you need to be wielding a weapon that has the parry trait, so that means you're not just swinging 4 lightsabers. Right? Intimidating prowess also kicks into this level, letting us rush down our enemies and leave them in all of our might, getting a +1 circumstance bonus on our intimidation checks whenever we physically menace a foe. And finally, the Acts of Leadership feature lets us apply our directives lead by example benefits not only when we actually lead by example, but also when we take the actions to hide, sneak, or take cover. This helps us survive until the perfect moment comes to strike. Some may call it cowardice, I call it efficiency. At level 7, we pick up the Die Hard feat, letting us survive to dying 5 instead of dying 4. One of the perks of being 80% droid is you can have as many limbs cut off as you want without having to worry about bleeding out. Level 7 envoys also get Fortitude Expertise, boosting our Fortitude saves to Expert Proficiency, Weapon Specialization, giving us a flat damage boost to all strikes that we're at least expert in, and Improvised Mastery, to roll a check with Master Proficiency once per day, no matter what our actual proficiency is with it. Turns out, Grievous is actually just really good at baking. Finally, the Leader's Confidence feature grants us the Steel Yourself directive, allowing us to command each ally within 60 feet to brace for impact. And if they do, they gain temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier, plus half your level for a minute. And if you activate Lead by Example, those allies also get a +1 status bonus to saving throws against damaging effects. Your droids might be disposable, but a little preservation will go a long way in cutting down maintenance costs. The Master Plan feat at level 8 reflects Grievous' master at tactical planning. At the start of each day, you can strategize with up to 5 allies. Then, when one of those allies make an attack or skill check during the day, you can use the reaction to remind them that they're supposed to succeed. This expert advice lets them roll twice and take the best result, but after that, they're immune to your master plan for the rest of the day. We also grab Quick Coercion, letting us coerce a foe in 1 round instead of 1 minute. Perfect for dropping down from above in all of your sneaky, menacing glory. You're like the Phantom Menace. Oh, never mind. That's someone else. At level 9, we get Envoy Expertise, bumping up our class DC to Expert. This doesn't do a ton on its own, unless you have gear that specifically uses your class DC. Then, there's the Hidden Agenda feature, making our plans almost impossible to predict. If someone rolls a critical success on a perception check to sense motive against us, or a recall knowledge check against our secrets, it's downgraded to a normal success. And if we roll a critical failure on a saving throw against any effect trying to read or reveal our thoughts, emotions, or intentions, magically or otherwise, it counts as just a failure instead. And finally, the All Hands on Deck class feat lets us count all of our hands as our active hands for 1 round once per day. No more stressing over switching active hands to unleash the full power of your arsenal, because you're absolutely not just wielding 4 plasma swords in every hand, right? You're not. Are you seriously still? I can't. I'm done.
At level 10, we pick up the Dual Weapon Blitz class feat, letting us attack on the run. When you use this feat, you get to stride up to your speed and make a strike with each weapon in your active hands. Carving out a path of destruction with a lightsaber in each hand, can you think of anything cooler? We also snag the Nimble Crawl skill feat, letting us move at full speed while prone with that creepy spider crawl thing. Great for a quick escape, but remember, if you want to actually land a hit in retaliation, you're going to need to stand up first. And the Kip Up feat at level 11 lets us do just that. This lets us stand up from prone as a free action without provoking reactions, saving both precious action economy and hit points. We also pick up Perception Master, boosting our perception proficiency to Master, and Resolve, doing the same thing but for our will saves, while treating all successful will saves as critical successes. These truly are the droids we're looking for. At level 12, we pick up Twin Repose. When benefiting from the Twin Parry feature, if a foe critically fails a strike against us, we can use that reaction to punish their mistake with a strike of our own. This pairs perfectly with our investment in Intimidation. Demoralizing enemies not only makes them more likely to critically miss, but also lowers their AC, making our reprisal strikes even deadlier. But it's not just martial attacks that suffer. The Terrifying Resistance skill feat grants us a +1 bonus to saving throws against creatures we've already demoralized in the last 24 hours, reducing their spell DC and boosting our defenses. A solid counter against pesky Force users. At level 13, we pick up Revivification Protocol. When you're dying and about to make a recovery check, your backup battery kicks in once per day to restore you to 1 hit point. giving you a second chance to retreat or regroup without shame. After all, the internet is very understanding about tactical withdrawals. We also gain the Tactician feature, letting you grant one of 5 special roles to yourself and up to 5 allies at the start of each day. When you activate this directive, attackers roll twice and take the better result on their next strike against a foe. Defenders can either force their attacker to roll twice and take the worst result on their next attack, or roll twice themselves and take the better result on their next saving throw. Experts roll twice and take the better result on their next skill check. And spellcasters roll twice and take the better result on their next attack roll, or a check as part of casting a spell. Or they can force one target of that spell to roll twice and take the worst result on their saving throw against it. Most of your droids will be attackers, but hey, maybe you want them to team up with Count Dooku or another big bad for some serious synergy. On top of that, we get Light Armor Mastery and Weapon Mastery, boosting our armor and lightsaber proficiency to Master. An Effortless Influencer lets us use Practice Influencer 3 times per day instead of once, with the added bonus that whenever you succeed on one of these effects, allies get a +1 bonus to that skill check if they use it within the next minute. Talk about leading from the front. At level 14, Dual Onslaught lets us take a nice bonus in consistency. When we make a double slice attack, we deal damage with our lightsabers as long as both attacks don't critically miss. Considering Grievous can make 20 attacks in a second, it's going to be pretty tough for enemies to dodge every single strike. Plus, Lasting Coercion means when we coerce someone, that effect sticks with them for up to a week, and once we hit Legendary and Intimidation, it lasts up to a month. Grievous isn't just about cutting you down. When he gives an order, you better remember it. At level 15, Envoys get Legendary Improvisation, letting us roll 1 skill check each day with Legendary Proficiency, even if we're not actually Legendary in that skill yet. With 5 skills already at Legendary for this build, failing checks is basically off the table. We also get Greater Weapon Specialization, giving us another flat damage boost, and Reflex Mastery increases our reflex saves to Master Proficiency, which treats all successes as critical successes, making us way harder to catch off guard. And finally, the Numb to Death General feat lets us recover hit points from dying without increasing our wounded value, like when Revivification Protocol kicks in. Just because Grievous knows when to retreat doesn't mean he can't fight to the bitter end when he has to. At level 16, we pick up 2 Weapon Flurry, letting us make strikes with both lightsabers in our active hands as a single action. This action has the Press trait, so it stacks with multiple attack penalties and doesn't reduce them, meaning these attacks won't be super accurate. It's a shame we can't use more agile weapons to improve this, but hey, wielding 4 lightsabers at once still looks insanely cool. We also get Terrified Retreat skill feat, so when we critically demoralize a foe, they become fleeing for a round. Perfect for scaring a Padawan out of cover and making an epic cinematic ambush worthy of your debut. At level 17, Advanced Targeting System lets us cast Sure Strike on ourselves once per day, rolling twice on our next strike and taking the better result. While that might be amazing in Star Wars universe, where 1 lightsaber slash is usually fatal, it still gives an edge in Pathfinder, especially when we're already making so many low accuracy attacks. We also gain Incredible Senses, boosting our perception to Legendary. And we get Indiscernible Agenda, which shields our minds so well that even critical successes to gather information or recall knowledge about us becomes failures. And if we critically fail a save against mind-affecting effects, it just counts as a regular success. The Force may be strong with them, but it's not getting past your firewall. At level 18, Twin Defense removes the need to activate Twin Parry. You're now always benefiting from its AC boost, freeing up actions for more aggressive lightsaber ballet. And with Quick Climb, you gain a climb speed equal to your land speed, letting you skitter up walls and drop from ceilings like the terrifying robotic nightmare you were born to be. At level 19, we pick up Full Senses, rendering us undetectable to even the most attuned Force users. We also grab Light Armor Master, boosting our proficiency to Master, and helping us shrug off blaster fires and lightsaber glances. Finally, the Silver Tongue feature lets us reroll an Intimidation check once per day as a free action, ensuring that at least once per encounter, our Mechanical Mockery leaves us a permanent dent in someone's courage. And at level 20, we end on a high note with Improved Twin Repose, giving us an extra reaction we can use to make an opportune repose. It's rare that 2 enemies critically fail attacks against you in the same round, but when they do, you'll be ready to carve them up without sacrificing your envoy reactions like Master Plan. We also cap things off with Legendary Sneak skill feat. That's right, this giant, coughing, 4 lightsaber-wielding robot may not seem particularly stealthy, but that just makes it all the more terrifying when the battlefield suddenly goes silent mid-combat and you don't know where the next attack is coming from. And that's a wrap for our build of General Grievous and Starfinder 2nd Edition. Whether you're cutting down Jedi with a flurry of lightsabers, barking orders at your droid army, or just dramatically coughing through the shadows, this build brings all the menace and tactical genius you'd expect from the Supreme Commander of the Separatist droid army. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe and drop a comment letting us know which character you'd like to see next. Until then, keep rolling high and we'll catch you in the next one.